in today's video, we're gonna be going over 10 things that you need to know before you move to Las Vegas, Nevada. So if you're interested, please stay tuned because we're getting after it right now. Hey guys, welcome to the video and welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time at the channel, please make sure you go down below, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you get notified of every new video I put out. I try to put out a few every single week. And if you're coming back to the channel, thank you so much for coming back for another video. Don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps me in the YouTube algorithms and helps me make more videos to you and helps me get them to you faster. And with that, guys, let's get right into the video. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 things you need to know before you move to Las Vegas, Nevada. I talk to people every single day that are moving here, clients of other agents, and I don't think enough of them do research when moving here. Now, granted, some people are moving here regardless because of work. Maybe you'd be coming here for the military, you're PCSing. In those cases, you know, you have to move here no matter what, so you don't have much choice. But if you're choosing to move here out of a number of other cities, Las Vegas is an amazing place to live. It's an absolute paradise. Been here for years. My family's here. I got kids. You know, it's great for families. It's great for everybody, really, and I really love it here. Everyone I know loves it here. But if you're choosing between Las Vegas and other cities, I want you to make the best choice. So let's go over 10 things I think you need to know about Las Vegas before you move here. The first thing you need to know, and I get this all the time, oh my God, you live in Las Vegas. Isn't the heat unbearable? Isn't it so hot? Da 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 da. And people just go on and on and on. Yes, it's hot in Las Vegas. Okay, that's not a secret. Everybody knows it's hot in Las Vegas. It's literally a part of the Mojave Desert, so how could it not be hot here, right? So with that, now that we got that out of the way, it's a different kind of heat, guys. If you're coming from the East Coast, like I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, then I lived in upstate New York, lived a few other places, but always ended up going back to the East Coast. If you're from the East Coast or the South or Northwest parts of Texas, you are very familiar with humid summers, right? Where you go outside and it's instantly, you just feel clammy and kind of disgusting and your sweat doesn't really evaporate. It just beads up all over you, right? That's humidity because there's just a ton of water in the air. Las Vegas is nothing like that. Las Vegas is a very dry heat. Sometimes it's so hot and so dry, you don't even, like you're sweating, but it doesn't even beat up on your skin. It just evaporates before it even has a chance to beat up. And most of the time the skies are completely blue out here because there's no clouds. There's no humidity to form clouds. So they essentially just get burned out of the sky as soon as the sun comes up. So you have to know that about the heat, guys. If you hate humidity, Las Vegas could be a perfect place for you because you have beautiful paradise-like temperatures all year round, low humidity all year round, low rain. It's just an amazing place to live. But if you really hate dry heat, if you'd rather have that humidity, then Las Vegas might not be the place for you. So just factor that into your move. Next, guys, you're probably going to have to drive about 15 to 45 minutes, depending on where you live in the city, for all sorts of services. So like groceries, that might be a little closer to you because there are a lot of grocery stores, but doctor's office visits, you know, your favorite gas station, work, maybe your particularly favorite grocery store, the restaurants you really frequent, that sort of thing. If you don't already know, Las Vegas, it was a city that built out instead of up. So it's very spread out, and it's common, like I said, to have to drive about 15, maybe 10 to 45 minutes in any given direction so that you can get to where you need to go. Now, that somewhat depends on traffic and the time of day, of course, where you live, where those services are, right? If you live more centralized or you live really close to your services, then this might not apply to you. But I've lived here for years in a few different locations, and this has always been the case for me, and it's always been the case for a few other people that also live here that I know. So consider that, guys. If you can't deal with a 10 to 15 minute drive every week, or excuse me, if you can't deal with a 10-minute drive to the grocery store or 30-minute drive to the doctor's office, 45-minute drive to work, again, guys, all depending on where you live. You know, you can, if you buy a house that's close to where you work, then you don't have to worry about that. But it depends on where you live, and it's pretty common. So just keep that in mind when you're moving here. You might have to drive a little further than you did before just because the city is so spread out and flat. That being said, guys, because Las Vegas is a touristy city, you might have to drive to get somewhere, right? But This city has everything in it. You're gonna have access to anything you could possibly want, pretty much, I don't wanna say around the clock, because I can't make any guarantees, but like most of the time, you know, the restaurants or the kind of food you want, you're gonna be able to find somewhere in the city. The kind of, you know, you wanna go do some touristy stuff, there's gonna be some stuff available. You wanna go see some museums, there's gonna be some museums available. You wanna get to nature, that's easy. You wanna go to a different grocery store chain, easy. I mean, there's so many things out there to do, guys, because it's a tourist city. Things are always open, things are always available. Hold on one second, let me fix my camera. Perfect. Things are always available. There's just so much to do. So there's kind of a trade-off there, right? It might take a little longer to get somewhere, but there's stuff to do everywhere, and there's so many options for any given thing you could want. Third on the list, Las Vegas is not a city designed for pedestrians. And what I mean by that is because the city is so spread out, because they built out instead of up in the Las Vegas Valley, it's difficult to walk and ride your bike places. Now, it can be done, and this is also location specific. So if you live right next to the Strip, it's gonna be really easy to walk the Strip, to access the Strip by bike, by walking, or public transportation. That's gonna be really easy. If you live in some of the newer master plan communities, like some of the areas in Summerlin, maybe some areas down in Henderson or in the northwest of Las Vegas, those areas, some of the master planned areas have been built with shopping and housing kind of a combination in mind. So take downtown Summerlin in the west side of Las Vegas, for instance. That's a big shopping center. It's close to a lot of housing because Summerlin was built with so many biking and pedestrian walking trails, you know, hiking trails, that sort of thing. It's easy to hop on a trail and walk somewhere, but that's not always the case. Now, there are sidewalks everywhere throughout the city. I mean, every neighborhood has sidewalks. There are a ton of bike paths on the street. So if you don't mind walking a little bit farther, if you don't mind biking a little bit farther, go for it. All that stuff is available to you guys. Just keep in mind the heat, and keep in mind, like I said, things are kind of isolated. So I know like my residential area, for instance, you know, you have your like circular development, and then you have to get out of your development onto a main road, and you have to take that main road to a shopping center. Now, in my case, we chose to live very close to the grocery store and the gym that we frequent, but that's not always the case. There are a ton of areas in the city where it's just extremely residential, and you know, might have to drive 10 or 15 minutes until you get to your favorite grocery store or restaurant, something like that. So guys, just keep that in mind. If you really like to walk and bike, you're gonna wanna select an area that's within walking and biking distance to your job and to the other places that you think you're gonna frequent. Fourth on the list, HOAs. So if you don't know what an HOA is, an HOA stands for a homeowners association, or sometimes it's called a common interest community. So what an HOA or a common interest community is an organization that governs a neighborhood. So I live in a neighborhood with an HOA, and what that HOA does is it collects monthly dues from all the residents, and it uses that to upkeep the common spaces, the roads, that sort of thing, so that everything looks nice. It also has people that patrol the neighborhood every once in a while, maybe once every 2 weeks, and just make sure that people's landscaping is looking good, the houses are looking good, there aren't any big oil stains, like nobody's car is leaking stuff. And they don't really do invasive checks, you know, they're not in your backyard looking at stuff or anything like that. But they go around the neighborhood just to make sure everything looks the way it's supposed to. And the purpose of this is to help keep all of the property values in the area high, so that nobody trashes their house and their front lawn and things like that, and then decreases the neighborhood's property value. So that's the point of an HOA. A lot of people don't like HOAs because occasionally you do get letters in the mail about, hey, you know, your trash cans, for instance, have been out too long, or we can see them from the road. Or maybe there's some trash in your front yard. I just got one last week. They were talking about my flowers were a little overgrown, so my wife and I had to go out there and trim them. So things like that, guys, you do get letters occasionally. Not everybody gets them because some people are really on top of it, the landscaping, stuff like that. Others, like myself, aren't. They're not nasty letters. They're just letting you know, hey, we saw this, please correct it. It's usually within like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And every letter I've ever gotten from an HOA, you could even request additional time if you needed it. Say you're on vacation and someone else picked up your mail, or you weren't going to be back for a couple weeks. So living in an HOA is not the end of the world. But the other bad part about it, beside the letters, is they do collect that monthly fee. Now, sometimes it's like 20 bucks, right? Some HOAs are really low cost. It's going to depend on the neighborhood. Other HOAs, like parts of Summerlin or other more luxury areas, or more newer areas or areas with higher price points in the city, could be $100 to $300 a month. And some areas even have more than one fee, right? They might have one HOA for one thing, another HOA for another thing, and a master planned community fee. So when you're researching rental properties, or you're researching buying a home or an investment property in Las Vegas, you need to talk to the real estate agent you use about what HOAs and what's master plan fees are in the area, and SIDS and LIDs as well. So those are fees that come with special development areas. So you need to talk to your real estate agent or your realtor. Like myself, if you need anything, my contact information will be on the screen. If you are moving here and you have questions about it, you can ask me, you can ask another real estate agent or realtor in the area. Just make sure you know what those fees are going to be. Make sure the seller of the home discloses all of that to you, and that's generally all part of a sale. But like I said, you want to make sure you get that information as far upfront as possible so that you know about additional monthly fees you might have to pay for. Number 5, y'all. Before we get to number 5 though, please, if you haven't already, go down below, hit that like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell. That way you get notified of every new video I put out, because I try to put out as many as I can every single week. And also that thumbs up, that like, really helps me in the YouTube algorithm. It really helps me connect with more people moving to Las Vegas, more people who live here and just want some more information on the area, because that's what I like to do, guys. I like to connect, make these videos, get them out there so people know what's going on and I can help people. All right, and with that, let's go to number 5. Most houses in Las Vegas look roughly the same. And I know that probably hits you like a ton of bricks and sounds super depressing. I know it was kind of depressing for me when I first got here, because I'm originally from the East Coast, and like I said, I lived in a few other places across the country. I've never lived anywhere where all of the houses looked about the same. Now, what I mean by that, in any given development, there are going to be several different models of home, usually. So model A, B, C, whatever the case may be. All of those homes are going to look different. All those individual models are going to look different from the outside, and they're going to look different on the inside, right? They're going to have different layouts, different roof features, different front doors, stuff like that, right? So what I mean by the same is almost every single house out here, unless you get into the high-end luxury homes, or a new build where you specifically select, you know, what you want the home built out of, is so most homes are going to be this frame on stucco, which you have the wooden home and the plywood, all that normal stuff that houses are built out of. But underneath, or on top of all that, they put this stucco material, and it's not like the stucco that comes on a popcorn ceiling. It kind of looks similar, but what it does is it's a really good insulator, and it's very fire retardant, because out here everything is so dry. Fire is a really big concern. Plus houses are close together, and we'll talk about that later. So if one house were to catch on fire, you don't want the whole street catching on fire, right? You want to build homes out of fire retardant material. And then most homes out here, unless it's a really old home, will generally have like concrete or clay roofing tiles, which actually look really cool. And that's a huge plus, I think, because those roofs, I just talked to my insurance agent when we renewed our insurance on our previous house, and I asked about the roof, and they said they basically consider those kind of roofs to be a lifetime roof. So as long as you don't get any like softball size hailstorms busting up those tiles, then mainly they consider that that roof is going to last for the life of the home, or even outlast the life of the home, which is really cool, because that means you don't have to put a new roof on your house, which can be super expensive. So keep that in mind, guys. If you're moving out here and it really matters to you to have your own unique style of home, you're probably going to want to look at a new build, or you're going to want to look at homes in a higher price point. And hopefully that's something we can find for you. Hopefully that's something you can afford. It's not impossible to find different looking homes. There are also older homes in the city that weren't really built, or excuse me, the older homes in the city, talk maybe like built in the 60s, the 70s, that sort of thing. About that time, the city's not really that old. Those homes generally do look very dissimilar from everything around them because they were built by individuals. There weren't HOAs and that sort of thing involved. So if that's really important to you, you're gonna look at older homes or generally higher price point homes, or maybe some new builds where you can kind of customize the exterior. But it's always good, reach out to a real estate agent like myself, or maybe some construction companies in the area who are building new homes, and kind of get those questions answered so you don't move here and then, you know, get stuck in a home that you really don't want to be in. All right, number 6, going along with number 5, most neighborhoods are going to look about the same because the houses look about the same. Landscaping out here looks about the same from neighborhood to neighborhood. This is actually a pretty good thing because there are only so many plants that do well in this desert environment. You really don't want to live in a neighborhood that decided to experiment with the plants, because that can cause a lot of problems. You can get a lot of plants dying. You can get roots growing places you don't want them going, all that sort of stuff, guys. So you want generally low maintenance plants out here. And like I said, you have those stucco homes that insulate the home really well and keep the roof safe with those concrete roofing tiles. So unfortunately, most neighborhoods are going to look relatively the same. Of course, landscaping is going to differ in layout and some style of plant, but you're going to see a lot of similarities. So again, if it's really important to you that your landscaping looks different than everybody else's, or that you live in an area that has a lot of variety, make sure you're talking to your agent about that. Make sure you're calling HOAs, because a lot of these HOAs have offices. So you can get in touch with the people there. You can kind of talk to them about, well, what are the landscaping rules? What can I add? What can I take away? That sort of stuff. And kind of going along with that some more, if you want to add plants, take plants away, you do have to think about the water impact. Are you going to be using more water? Are you going to be using less water? Do these plants need more water that you can possibly give them in order to survive here? Is there too much sunlight or not enough sunlight? All those things come into play when changing landscaping, deciding that. And that's why it's important to talk to your agent and important to talk with the HOA, because they might not even allow you to do some things because they know up front that it's going to fail. So make sure you ask those questions, guys. Get everything answered before you decide to live in a particular neighborhood and buy a home in a particular area. Number 7, one of the best things about Las Vegas, there are a ton of parks. I can't remember off the top of my head Las Vegas, but city of North Las Vegas, which is smaller than the city of Las Vegas, and is its own separate town up here just west of Nellis Air Force Base. And if you look at like the Las Vegas metro area, North Las Vegas is kind of the upper northeast corner. About 220, 250,000 people, somewhere in there. It has 33, 34 parks, something like that, guys. Ton of parks. Everywhere in the city has parks. I mean, I hardly drive anywhere without passing a park. And even more so, like, you have the city parks and the state parks that are around here, but you also have parks built within your community. So you don't have to get in the car and drive 5 minutes to the park down the street. You can simply grab your kids and your dog and you can go to the park in the neighborhood with the jungle gym. We do that all the time. We actually took some Easter photos in our neighborhood park, which was awesome. There are jungle gyms and swings, and depending on the neighborhood, the size of the neighborhood, the home cost of the neighborhood, the HOA cost, all those sorts of things, those playgrounds could be enormous, or maybe it's just a nice green lot that has some shade where you can go and take the kids and maybe kick the soccer ball around, throw the baseball, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind, guys. There are a ton of places to do outdoor activities. So if you're looking at homes and you're like, oh man, that yard's not that big, it's not a huge issue, because more than likely your area has a park. And I'll be honest, guys, the parks don't get used that much. My neighborhood park is, I hardly ever see people there, and I'm there a couple times a week. And the park's down the street or something, unless there's like a big frisbee golf tournament going on or a bunch of birthday parties and stuff, there really aren't that many people. Most people just kind of run alongside the road or in their neighborhood on the sidewalk. So you don't get a lot of people doing exercise and stuff in parks. So keep that in mind. They're not really that busy, but sometimes, like the Craig Ranch Regional Park, which is in North Las Vegas, this is really cool. A couple months ago now, we were at Pirate Fest, which is super cool. Big pirate themed fair. You got all your sweets, your turkey legs, your corn dogs, nachos, all sorts of stuff, guys. And they do that in parks all over the city. So if you move here, keep your eye out for those park events. Use those parks, because a lot of people don't. And don't worry about too much about the size of your yard, because that's pretty common, but that's what the parks are for. Continuing from that park theme, I kind of mentioned it, but most people have pretty small yards, unless you're living in a big luxury neighborhood or you're buying an older home, chances are your lot that your home is built on is going to be small, like 1/10 of an acre or 1/4 of an acre, somewhere in there. Out here in Vegas, I would consider a 1 acre lot a pretty big sized lot, and you'd probably pay a pretty penny for it as well, because lots in the Las Vegas Valley, there's only so much space in the Vegas Valley. It's surrounded by mountains and government land, so there's only so much room to expand. And they decided to build out instead of up. So lots are expensive. Acreage is expensive, so you should expect, if you move out here, especially if you move from the East Coast, Northwest, parts of Texas, anywhere where yards and lands are easier to come by and not necessarily cheaper, but just it's more commonplace, right? I mean, I grew up in Pennsylvania and my parents live on a 1/2 acre lot, and I remember playing football and stuff out back, and it was like a normal football field because our yard was so big. If you're moving here to Las Vegas, you're probably not going to get that. That's pretty rare. And even if you found that, it's probably not going to be covered in grass. It's probably going to be like dirt and shrubbery and that sort of stuff, more like landscaped features for the desert, because grass is just not a naturally occurring thing out here like it is in other parts of the country. So if that's really important to you, make sure you factor that in. Start looking at large lots, maybe for new builds. Start looking at larger luxury lots. Sometimes living outside of the city farther, you can find lots for less money. But then, of course, you're going to have a farther drive to work, to school, to wherever you're going to be doing. But like I said previously, there are a lot of parks. It's really easy to get outdoors here and head to the mountains in like 20, 30 minutes. You can be at 9,000 feet elevation and recreating up there. So I don't really think you need a yard. I would love to have a yard, honestly, but I do a lot of the same activities I did on the East Coast here, just in the parks, that I would have done on my yard on the East Coast. So keep that in mind if you're moving here, guys. Number 9, this is a big one, no state income tax. A lot of people don't know this because this is not something people Google every day, but there are a lot of states that don't have a state income tax, and Nevada is one of them. So I'm not going to dwell on this too long, guys, but if you like keeping more of your income in your pocket, then you're going to like Nevada, because no state income tax. Some things are more expensive here, some things are less expensive. Go ahead, check out my video, Cost of Living in Las Vegas and the Pros and Cons of Living in Las Vegas. That has some monetary stuff in it too. Check those out, and that'll kind of give you an idea of what it costs to live here. But no state income tax is a big plus. That's why so many people from California are moving to Nevada, because California has like a 13.3% income tax, which I think is the highest out of any state, which is just insane. So if you want your paycheck to go up, and if you want the government to take less money out of your pocket, move to Nevada. Finally, guys, number 10, before we get there, please, if you haven't already, smash that thumbs up button, that like button, subscribe, and notify button. Click them all for me, please, please, please. It really helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and it helps you stay tuned to all the new videos that I put out, because I try to put out a few every single week. And guys, if you have a question or comment about moving here, my contact information is going to be on the screen. I'm helping people every single day. I'm talking to people every single day who are moving to Las Vegas. So please reach out, give me a call, text, email, send that pigeon carrier, however you want to get in touch with me, because I'll have your back when moving to Las Vegas. And with that, guys, number 10. Homes are generally close together in Las Vegas. Now, not arm's reach close together, unless you're maybe the largest NBA player of all time, but homes are pretty close together here, and that has to do with, like I said, we decided to build out instead of up in Las Vegas. So we're slowly running out of space to build new homes. In some areas of the city, we're already out of space, and there's no more space to build new homes. So because we're running out of space, as the city grew older and older, they decided to build homes closer and closer together. And you're not going to be reaching out your window, touching your neighbor's window, but I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and my neighbor's house was like 50 yards away. Here, I'd say it's probably closer to 10 yards away, maybe a little bit less in some instances. So if you want a big lot, if you want to be far from your neighbor, consider maybe living up at Mount Charleston, or living out farther, maybe Cold Springs. So Cold Springs is kind of far away out of Vegas, but it's an option. Just consider living maybe out of the city a little bit farther. Look at new builds. Maybe you can buy a couple lots and kind of situate your house in the center if you have the budget for it, or more of a luxury-based home, which is going to have a larger lot and going to be kind of more secluded and private. It's not going to be super far away from your neighbor, but those homes are gonna be more built for seclusion and privacy than your average everyday, you know, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 home. So guys, just keep that in mind if you're moving here, and that's really important to you. With that, guys, please, like I said earlier, if you're thinking about moving here, if you know somebody who's thinking about moving to Las Vegas, maybe just you're moving here soon, maybe you're PCSing here with the military, whatever the case may be, guys, I get people calling me, emailing me, texting me every single day about moving here. This is what I love to do. This is how I build my business, is to help people move to this beautiful, beautiful city. I'm raising my kids here, my family's here. It's a paradise, and I love it, and I want you to love it too. And I want you to have a smooth time moving here, because I didn't really have a smooth time moving here years ago. So if you need anything, my contact information is on the screen. Please call, text, email, send the pigeon carrier, however you want to get in touch with me. I promise that I'll have your back when moving to Las Vegas. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Have a great day.